2026 is going to be an awesome year. We got some pretty cool stuff coming up. First off, we got Foundations of Recovery. This is our flagship program. We're starting it in January.
This is for anyone, man, woman, or couple who wants to come and reclaim their heart from shame, trauma, and betrayal. We start off with an education on all sorts of principles, give you the common language. We feed you from a fire hose in terms of all things recovery.
It is such a great start to recovery. And we get at the roots of things, Tyler. This isn't like any other program. Like, this is our healing journey in process, and Foundations is where we begin.
If you look at the value that you're getting there to kick off a good recovery with all of the right education, all of the right language, and a team to get you started while also being directed by Brannon and myself through the whole process, what a deal.
So if you're interested, if you're struggling, if you've been wanting to do something for a long time, jump into this. This only comes around every so often, and we would love to have you there.
Click the link in the description to sign up for it. And to make it even sweeter, we're also including a raffle for a free pass to the Radiant Dawn retreat. Anyone who signs up for Foundations will be added to the raffle for that free Radiant Dawn pass. If you're a man and you sign up for Foundations, your name still gets entered, and you can give that pass away if you win it to any woman that you want to.
So what you're saying, Tyler, is if you sign up and participate in Foundations, you could possibly go to Radiant Dawn for free?
That's exactly what I'm saying, which is crazy because Foundations by itself is already an insane value.
Man, I sound so salesy. But it actually is awesome. So come to Foundations. And even if you don't come to Foundations, sign up for Radiant Dawn. It's beyond therapy, the best healing experiences that you can have.
Click the link below and come join us.
How do I know when to stand and fight and when to let go?
What's up, you guys? Welcome to the Therapy Brothers podcast. I'm Brannon.
I'm Tyler. We're brothers.
We're therapists.
We're not afraid of your questions.
So bring it. Okay, let's read a review first. It says, your podcast has helped me so much, and I've never found such useful content elsewhere. I've also found your resource to be far more helpful than one-to-one counseling. Thank you so much for all the effort.
Well, thank you. That's a really nice review. Just remember, this isn't counseling.
I know.
And you may just not have the right counselor yet either.
Or our podcast is awesome.
Maybe we're just awesome.
Both works.
Well, regardless, we appreciate your review. Thank you for your willingness to reach out to us and let us know that. We do love hearing from you.
I got a story for you, Tyler. Okay. It's probably similar story to others that you've heard, but I was on I-15 and I was merging onto I-80. Mm-hmm. And there's this really tough merge where people are trying to get on State Street, and then people are trying to get over on I-80.
That exit is brutal.
Yeah. And so I'm trying to get over to get on to I-80 to stay on the freeway, and this guy gets right on the corner of my car and will not move, will not let me over.
He's going to force you off to State Street.
And that's exactly what happens. And so I put my hands up like, come on, like, let me in, let me over. Well, he didn't like that. And this dude was driving a minivan with his wife in there and some of his kids. And I set something off inside of him. Like, it was major. And so he flips me off. He's just staying right next to me. And we end up stopped at the light at the bottom of the ramp, right next to each other.
Oh, geez.
And he's asking me to get out of my car and to fight.
Right there at the stop sign.
And his wife starts yelling at him like, knock it off, like stop, like quit. Like, what are you doing? And I got to admit, my response to that was I started laughing at him and at his behaviors, which amped it up even more. Right.
Yeah.
And
of course.
Yeah.
You're like mocking him. You're like basically like saying, dude, you've already lost. You're driving a minivan.
I was sincerely amused though. At like, I'm like, you're driving a minivan with your family. Like, you expect, like, are we really going to duke this out? You know?
Well, that might just be an indicator of where his masculine heart's at. He's got no other outlet, so he's gotta find it on the
Maybe,
freeway.
or maybe he just had a bad
Yeah,
day.
who knows?
Maybe he was
Who
just
knows?
fighting with his wife on the, and then here I am trying to get over, and he's just projecting it
and
all.
he doesn't know you're trying to get over. He knows you raise your hands at him, like, what are you doing?
Yeah, so he's all in the right in his mind.
For
and
sure. Totally.
Maybe all this other stuff's happening in his life, and all of a sudden, all of that anger is pinpointed on me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, why am I telling this story? You got to know when to fight, and you got to know when to let things go. Would it have been the right thing for me to do, Tyler, to say, yeah, get out of your car, let's clog all the traffic behind us while you and I, buddy, fist fight?
Right. I mean, there's probably a piece of you that might have enjoyed that yourself. And as you're telling the story, I'm actually thinking like, dang, I've probably been the dude in the minivan many times. But either way, let's get back to like what you're saying. Like, of course, in that situation, this is a pretty clear example of like, according to the question we're doing for our podcast on today is, yeah, that one, you're probably better off staying in your car, let it be. Like,
it's pretty clear that like the best thing for me to do is to probably smile at the guy, and turn the other cheek, turn the other way, and drive off,
and just let it be what it is.
So let it go.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the difference between that and a time when maybe I need to step up, and maybe I need to have my voice heard, have my truth spoken, and to be able to actually say, yeah, let's fight for something here.
Yeah, that's the golden question, right, Brannon? It's like, how do I discern when I'm supposed to stand in my truth and die on the sword, like die on this hill, and when it's better to live to fight another day? And maybe let me give you an example of something going on in our lives right now, and you can kind of break it down with me here for a second. My second daughter, she applied to be in student government, and she came home Friday. She was in tears. She didn't make it. They did the announcement. She didn't quite make it. And the way that the student government was set up is that it had 5 different criteria where they had to do a video, they had to do an interview with the faculty and the other student body, and they did a project. They had to show up to certain things, and there was the student vote. So each was a 20% weight, right?
And to your daughter, like this is a big deal.
It's a big deal.
Yeah.
She spent really like probably the better part of a month every day after school, putting together her video, putting together her project. She took it seriously. There were deadlines that were supposed to be met that she met, and with all of this stuff. And so she put her heart and her soul into it, which I love about that. I love seeing people put their heart and soul into things, but she comes home and she's disappointed,
Right.
She's in tears and she's crying, which I don't blame her for, because it's hard to hear and it's hard to have it over the intercom at school, and to feel rejected and things. But she came home, she said, I'm just going to cry for a day or two, and I'm going to allow myself to be sad, but maybe it's better for other people to have a chance, and it's going to be okay, and my life's going to go on. And that's kind of the discussion I had with her. And so she's in a place of kind of, I'm going to let it go and accept
resolve of let things go.
And my older daughter comes in about 30 minutes later from school. She's currently a senior and she's on the student council, and she's been part of this whole process. And right when she walked through the door, she was fuming mad. She's like, this isn't right. There's people that got in above Lexi that didn't even turn in some of their projects. Like, how do they have more points? It's a 100-point scale. How do they have more points than her? Like, this isn't right. I'm going into school and I'm going to talk to those teachers, and we're going to get out all the files, and we're going to do it. And she's like, we're going to
fix this.
We're going to make this right. And I'm going to confront it. And honestly, I'm hearing my daughter, my second daughter, and me being kind of like this moral dude. Like, I'm the guy who like stops in a parking lot and tells someone else, hey, you just stole that person's parking spot. You probably ought to get out of it. Like, that's me. So I'm getting on board with Madison, my oldest daughter. And I'm saying, yeah, Maddie, that's a good idea. You should go in and confront those faculty members and do this. And then my wife's standing there listening to this whole thing unfold. And she finally chimes in and she says, you know what, guys? Maybe she had the most head of reason at this point, but she says, you know what, guys? I love that you guys are passionate and that you want to stand up for things that are true. And she said, in this situation, it's probably better to just learn how to be a gracious loser. We don't want the Patrick family known as the family that just pouts and complains every time they don't get their own way. And you know what? Life's going to be okay. Lexi's going to move on. She's going to have other opportunities. This isn't the end of the world. And I heard my wife say that, and I thought, dang, like she's right, but I'm right. Like,
yeah, is she right? Right?
Yeah,
like,
we're both right, aren't we? Like
standing up for truth is not a bad thing,
right.
but also being a gracious loser is also a good thing. Right?
Both, you're right.
Both are good. So when do you know? I mean, Tyler, I think that this question is actually a question about boundaries, healthy boundaries, because you think about in any relationship that we have, especially with our spouse or our parents or whoever it is, you when people say, Brannon, I struggle with my boundaries, what they're saying is I struggle to know who I really am. And they're saying I struggle with this question. I struggle to know when it's time for me to step up, to be honest, to hold a line, or it's time for me to be a bit more patient and let things go, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for me, here's a clear indicator of an answer to this question. It's about resentment. So if something happens and I'm able to say, okay, I'll let that go, and then I don't, and it eats at me, and I feel used, I feel abused, I probably shouldn't have let it go. I probably should have done something different, reacted different, responded different, because there's an emotion inside of me saying something's still not right, something's still not okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and maybe I'm not going to be able to go fix it.
So this is hindsight, right? This is on the back end.
This is in the aftermath, and maybe you're not going to be able to go back and fix those things sometimes, but that's where resentment then gets stuck sometimes.
Right. But you can learn from that for the future, right? So you can ask yourself, like, let's take an example with marriage, for example. Let's say that your spouse never shows any appreciation ever, right? This is not a real life example for me, at least. So you're just feeling used and taken advantage of and just like used over and over again. Okay. If you shut up and just keep doing what you're doing and keep feeling used, what's going to happen to your marriage?
Well, there's a couple of things. You're either going to have to deal with letting go of your resentments because you're choosing to do those things and just allow it to be what it is, or you're going to be miserable until you say or do something different.
Yes, until you be honest. Right. And so if you keep feeling those resentments and you're not able to let it go, then it might be time to step up and say, hey, this is what I'm feeling. This is what I'm experiencing. And this is what I'm needing to be different for us. And it might, a ton of conflict might come from that.
Yeah.
But that still might be the right thing to do, right?
It might be better to have the acute and even very big conflict than to have a long-term slow drain through resentment. You're going to have the pain either way.
Yes.
But maybe in that situation, it's time to fight. You know, it's like I'm thinking in a broad historical sense, like think about the Revolutionary War of this great, amazing country that we're living in. George Washington, he's always references like the greatest general of all time, right? Because of what he did to help found this amazing country that we live in. And yet, if you really read the history and listen to the history, he spent much of the war setting up, working hard, getting ready for battle, and then in the last minute pulling out and running away. And he pulled out and ran away multiple times until the timing was right for him to take a stand, and then he won a decisive battle and shifted the tide of the whole war.
That's an interesting analogy.
You know, and sometimes I think we end up in those kind of same spaces where we either fall into the category of like, I'm going to die on every like hill that there is. Like we have a fight over like where we're going to put the laundry basket in our house. It's like, well, why? You know, like why are we going to do that? Or, but then there's maybe some other things that really are worth saying, you know what? I don't know if there's a good quick answer to this, but we have to continue to have an ongoing discussion about like, let's say, hey, look, maybe we're both a couple from a different religion and we both feel very strongly about the religion that we're living in. It's like, that dialogue has to continually be had. And there's probably going to be some surrender and some give and take, but there's also going to be some things that are important enough to continue to have the dialogue around.
Well, I think Tyler, that you get to the crux of the answer to this question. It's all about integrity. If you can answer the question, when I stepped away from that, I'm still in my integrity. Like when I didn't fight the guy on the side of the road, I actually was more in my integrity
100%
than fighting the guy on the side of the road.
And when you say in your integrity, you're basically saying in your true character.
In my true character. So,
right.
So if I fought the guy not in my integrity, how would I have felt afterwards?
Afterwards, you would have felt so small. You would have felt so stupid. You would have been thinking like, dude, I just got my butt kicked by a dude in a minivan, and I allowed myself to step into that drama.
Yeah. So I was in grad school, and I went to the University of Hawaii. Loved it. It was amazing. But I was a minority. I was the only LDS kid there. I was one of 2 white males in the program. And I'm sitting in this class, and in the class, they start going off on this conversation about how wonderful abortion is, just how great abortion is, and why it's so horrible that they take away women's rights. And, it's a social work class. So
it's pretty heavily slanted towards that direction.
Very liberal, very, and that's not my view at all.
You view it differently.
And I realized I was a man on an island. Like I was this white male guy that believed that abortion wasn't okay, sitting in a social work class. And they spent the good part of that class with groupthink, with everybody, with no opposing viewpoint at all. Mm-hmm. And I was driving home. I had to drive across the mountain through a tunnel, and I felt sick. I felt like I had been kind of abused and taken advantage of. And they hadn't. They
didn't know. That's just their perspective.
But right? I realized something inside of myself is I sacrificed my own integrity by just sitting there quietly
and not making
any waves and not saying anything. And that feeling is the feeling that we get when we don't step into our truth, right?
Yeah. I'm picturing the scene from Braveheart with Robert the Bruce when he commits to William Wallace that he's going to be there for him, and then he betrays him and backstabs him, and then he afterwards has that moment of like, what have I just done? I didn't act in my character. And he goes back to his own father who had told him to betray William Wallace and says, I will never do that again. Like there was something in him that broke where he knew that he hadn't acted in his integrity. And that story that you're sharing, Brannon, like that's a pretty powerful story, because you're walking out of that class and you probably did, again, if we're balancing this idea of, well, should I fight or should I just let it go? You were trying to avoid the pain of having to have the difficult discussion of bringing up a new perspective and be the only person maybe in that room that might have that perspective.
So I got to tell you another story really fast. Same thing, sitting in a class, graduate school, and I can't remember the topic, but it was similar. And the whole group think started happening. Everybody started agreeing, and it was very different from my viewpoint. And this one courageous girl was like, I totally disagree with that. I do not believe that at all. And it was incredible because the instant that she said that, 3 more students said, yeah, me too. That she gave them permission to voice up and to speak. And then all of a sudden we had a good discussion going on just because she stood in her truth.
What she did is she created space for others to feel courageous enough to share their own perspectives. And I would bet that class was much more rich, even if there was some conflict than the class where you sat there and did nothing and then walked out and said, well, dang.
Isn't that a metaphor for marriage? Marriage is much more rich when both parties are willing to show up honest and authentic and stand in their truths. Mm-hmm. But so there is a balance here between letting go things like the laundry basket.
This is truly a dialectic.
No, for sure. Yeah.
In a marriage, the middle ground is that I should be able to let go of all of the things that my wife does that bother me, that she's not going to change or that she can't change.
That don't impede on your integrity and your boundaries.
Right.
Yes.
I heard this one time that said, in the context of my LDS mission, there's a book we had to read that said, how do you deal with conflict with we get assigned a partner, a companion for months at a time. It said, how do you deal with conflict in that companionship? And the answer was, if it doesn't have anything to do with your eternal salvation, let it go.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, so the laundry's probably okay. Maybe my wife could let go of the way I load the dishwasher. You
guys have that one too?
Oh my gosh. The dishwasher, I don't know how many marriages have ended because of the laundry or the dishwasher. No, but really, like, it's like, there's other things that are really worth standing up for and saying, no, there are some principles here that we do have to discuss. And I'm willing to love you enough to share myself so that you know my heart. And I want to hear your heart.
Yes.
And we might not ever get right. What is John Gottman says, that most marriages have 7 fights or so that happen over and over again that never get resolved through the whole marriage.
Yes.
Maybe they're still okay to have.
Yes. Yes. And it's a way that you learn how to know each other and get to know each other is through those discussions. Right. Mm-hmm. But if one party or the other is just shutting up all the time and smiling and resenting and just never standing up, never standing in truth, that's not even a relationship.
Right.
At all.
Right. So that is the healthy balance. So I think if we were to answer our own question, if I'm going to be resentful, it might mean I need to stand up a bit more. If I'm fighting too much, maybe I can look at the things that don't have eternal value and let go of some things.
Yes.
Any other principles that
could I add another one?
Yeah.
Don't fight someone else's battle. And what I mean by that is sometimes you'll have emotions come up and you'll say, ugh, that doesn't sit right with me. Or for example, my daughter at school had an issue with a teacher and she came home and she was complaining and what the teacher was doing wasn't cool, wasn't okay. But I feel like in my integrity as a dad, it's my job to protect her. Right.
Of course.
But I realized that what the teacher was doing wasn't egregious enough for me to go to the school and say, that's not okay. That's not okay. So I had to back off and say, this is not my battle. I'm not going to fight this. It's not my battle. But then what I did was empower my daughter to go fight that battle, is to go actually address it with the teacher and be assertive.
Kind of plan with her how to do that.
Yeah. So it's not my battle. I need to back off, even though my emotions are coming up and I want to do something about it. Right.
Right. Yeah. I'm thinking of my own instances where I think I probably overstepped my bounds just a few months ago with my own daughter and the issue at school.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm the reason why she didn't get onto student council. So
this comes full circle.
Maybe I'm going to have to let that go now too.
Yes. I think, Tyler, the harder thing to do, sometimes it's really scary to step into truth. Like it's really scary to voice up. And it's really scary to have conflict. And sometimes it's extremely difficult to let go and to, I had an instance this week where we were talking to somebody who we were letting go actually
at our
practice, and we asked for feedback and she told us how horrible we were and this and that. The truth is there was a lot that went on from her side of things, and I wanted to just kind of drill her and tell her this is like, you need to look in the mirror, and the reality was the objective of the meeting was to say, it's time to move on. We got that objective met, and I needed to just bite my tongue and shut up and
let her say what you asked her to say.
Let her say it and move on, right? Mm-hmm. And that's what I did. And at the end of the meeting, I felt like that was the right thing to do. But it wanted to come back and get to me.
You wanted to be bitter and angry and then harbor resentment towards her, even though she's now gone.
Right.
And
even that guy that wanted to fight me, part of me was like, you know what? Like I should have stuck it to him. I should have, but letting go and surrendering can be hard, because what that means is it's the same with forgiveness. What that means is you don't have control. You don't have control about what they're going to experience or what they're going to learn or how it's going to be. You don't have control of that. You have to hand that to God, and then you surrender it. You let it go.
And the truth is that in both of those accounts, whether it was letting that person go or whether you're sitting at a stoplight on State Street now, even though you want to be on I-80, it was what it was.
That's the reality.
You had to let her go. You asked her for feedback. She gave you feedback. You're at State Street. You got forced off the exit.
Yes.
What's it going to do for
Lexi
you?
did not get in student government.
Lexi didn't get in student government. And no matter how much we complain, we can maybe go do some complaining. At the end of the day, we're going to have to let it go.
Yes, that's or live in suffering because you're in resistance your whole life,
or increase our own suffering.
Yes,
because we're unwilling to accept the reality of our situation.
You got to know when to hold them and know when to fold them.
Kenny Rogers, man, we work Kenny into the mix.
But Tyler, I think maybe one last point here is it's kind of the beauty of the way God created this life a little bit. It's the way we get to know ourselves. Is a lot of this stuff you can see in hindsight what would have been the best thing to do. But through the struggle, the interpersonal struggles that we have with others, we start to develop an understanding of who we actually are. And I think that's awesome. I think that struggle is good. What I would say is if you're a person who's always placating, a person who's always acting in fear, if you've listened to this, I hope that you actually consider stepping into truth. If you're a person who's always got to have the last word, always got to speak up, I hope you'll consider shutting up a little bit.
Bite your tongue,
and just let some things go.
Learn that there's probably a healthy balance in the middle.
Yes.
Depending on the principles that are in play.
Yep. All right, Tyler, excellent principle. I think if you can learn this one thing, it'll bring a lot of peace to your life.
Reduce a lot of suffering.
Yeah. All right, you guys, please like and subscribe and share this episode as well if you found it useful. We'll see you guys later.